Silent Hill 2 isn't just one of the scariest games ever made. It's also one of the most mysterious. But what if I told you that the version we all played wasn't the full story? Lost voice lines, removed enemies, entire beta maps that were silently buried. This isn't just game development trivia. Some of what was cut hints at a far more disturbing version of James Sunderland's story. In this video, we're diving into the twisted beta of Silent Hill 2 and uncovering what they didn't want you to see. Stick around, because the further we go, the more unexplainable it gets. In the early 2000s, Silent Hill 2 stunned players with its haunting story and oppressive atmosphere. But what if I told you that the version of the game we all know wasn't the only one that existed? It all starts at Tokyo Game Show 2001, where Konami gave out a disc to select media and partners. It was called the Trial Edition. On the surface, it looked like a simple demo, just the opening minutes of gameplay. But buried in the code was something else. Hackers and modders, years later, would crack open that disk. What they found wasn't just leftover code. It was a doorway into a Silent Hill that no one had seen before. Entire unused maps, full of unexplained details, rooms with blood-smeared walls, alternate layouts of James' apartment, and even paths that don't exist in the retail version. These weren't random placeholders. They looked polished, planned, like they had a story to tell, and then were cut before we ever saw them. One of the most chilling discoveries, a hospital basement hallway, twisted, warped, filled with sound glitches and strange camera angles. It appears only in the beta. In the final game, it's gone. Completely. But here's where it gets weirder. In these beta maps, James sometimes reacts differently. He gasps at certain scenes, clutches his head, and in one clip, whispers something we don't hear in the final version. Fans who studied this build believe Konami originally planned for James to express guilt and panic earlier in the story, possibly hinting at his secret far sooner than the final game does. So the question is, why did they change it? Was it pacing? Or did the developers cut this content because it revealed too much? Maybe the original vision of Silent Hill 2 was too uncomfortable, even for a horror game. Silent Hill 2 isn't just known for its fog and eerie sound design. It's the creatures that really stay with you. Each enemy is a twisted reflection of James' mind, his guilt, his repression, his darkest secrets. But what you saw in the final game, that was just the surface. Hidden deep inside the Trial Edition beta, modders discovered references to monsters that were never meant to be seen or remembered. One of the most disturbing was a creature dubbed by fans as the Decayed Infant, half-finished, malformed, and clearly unsettling. This enemy had stubby limbs, no facial features, and was rigged to crawl on all fours with jittery, broken animations. The disturbing part? It wasn't just a test model. It had sound triggers, animations, hitboxes. It was ready to go, and then removed. Community theory suggests this monster might have symbolized Mary's maternal loss or James' buried thoughts about having a family, corrupted by guilt. But here's the thing. Even Silent Hill has its limits. This creature may have crossed one. Imagine finding that in-game, crawling toward you in a hospital hallway, with nothing but the sound of infant cries echoing through static. But the horrors didn't stop there. The beta files also include what's now known as the Ceiling Walker. There's no visual model for this one, but collision data and unused sound triggers reveal something was supposed to follow James from above. Certain test maps contain areas where the camera pans upward, seemingly for no reason. When modders explored these zones, they discovered invisible hitboxes and sound cues, scratching noises, movement blips, and ceiling thuds. In some beta gameplay segments, there's even a faint drip of blood that falls from nowhere. The idea? A creature you never fully see but always feel. Think about it. The terror of something just out of sight, tracking you through the shadows. Classic psychological horror, but it was never finished. And finally, we get to the Impaler, a grotesque humanoid creature referenced only by its internal file name, enemy_Pierce. No in-game appearance, no official model, just one chilling animation labeled attack_victim_loop, showing a spiked object, driving downward again and again. Why was it scrapped? Some believe it was simply too graphic. Others say it didn't fit the pacing. But either way, this monster left behind traces like scars. Fans speculate it may have been a ritualistic enemy, maybe an earlier version of Pyramid Head, or perhaps a representation of punishment or guilt, striking at something helpless. These creatures weren't just nightmares. They were planned metaphors, deleted trauma, and while we never fought them in-game, they still whisper to those of us who dig deep enough. But what if the most disturbing part of Silent Hill 2's beta wasn't the monsters, but James himself? In the next section, we explore lost cutscenes, controversial alternate endings, and choices that were quietly erased from the final game. Silent Hill 2 is infamous for its multiple endings, from James driving away into the fog to walking into the lake and disappearing beneath the water. Each one says something different about his guilt and acceptance. But what if we told you those weren't the only paths? Buried within early builds and debug scripts are traces of completely different endings. Scenes that could have shown James in ways Konami never wanted you to see. Let's start with the most infamous, the Maria possession ending. In the Trial Edition beta, modders found a partial scene where Maria begins mirroring Mary in both speech and facial expressions, more aggressively than in the final game. Voice files labeled Maria_replacement_final01. Waves seem to suggest an ending where Maria becomes Mary entirely, and James accepts it. The theory, a path where James completely denies reality, choosing to replace his dead wife with a fantasy forever, a psychological failure state, essentially his bad ending, never officially shown. Next is the strange case of the Let Her Go route, an early moral path cut from the retail version. Internal flags show that if James rejected both Mary's letter and Maria's affection multiple times, he'd unlock a scene labeled James_alone. No Maria, no Laura, no closure. Just James walking off into the fog, utterly alone. It's like the game was designed to punish emotional detachment. You didn't accept guilt, love, or even grief. You just ran. Silent Hill gives you closure, or leaves you empty, depending on your choices. And this ending, the cut fog ending, was possibly too bleak, too unresolved for release. But what really made these endings terrifying wasn't just what they showed, but what they didn't. Because in one version of the game, James never even reaches the hotel, and that changes everything. The final act of Silent Hill 2 takes place in the Lake View Hotel, James' last stop before the truth can no longer be ignored. But in early beta builds, the ending wasn't just different. It was darker, colder, and almost entirely rewritten. In the Trial Edition, modders uncovered an alternate version of the hotel's top floor, featuring blocked-off hallways, flickering lights, and an untriggered cut scene labeled Mary_. Hidden deep in the files is a voice clip. You didn't even care until I was gone. It's not the Mary we meet in the final game. This version is angry, and James doesn't get to walk away clean. The most haunting detail? A cracked mirror in room 312. It never appears in the retail version, but in the beta, it was placed directly in front of James. A symbol, maybe, of confronting the broken self. Not just grief. Some cut dev comments even mention an unused variable. No confrontation equals void ending. One possible ending would have erased Mary, Maria, everyone. Just James, walking into nothing. No closure, no redemption, just emptiness. If this kind of deep dive into beta builds and forgotten horror lore hits the right nerve, you're in the right place. Follow ContraBrosTeam for more retro mysteries, lost content breakdowns, and hidden stories developers left behind. And for rare and overlooked retro games worth playing in 2025, visit our second channel, RetroListHQ. Everything's linked in the description. And remember, the scariest endings are the ones they erased.